Did you hear that wind? Oh wait, which one is this? No, I need you. I want you. Oh baby, oh baby. My eyes hurt so much. Hi y'all, this is Jace, she, they, and you found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. Welcome back to another edition of What I Read, where I give you a pretty short breakdown of everything that I read in the week with some quotes and things. Make sure that you got your comfy sexy on. Get your emotional support water bottle. I'm sticking with the boring one for now. Sometimes a clean palette is just what I need and not all of my stickers. And get ready. So the first book I read is Magic Dreams by Ilona Andrews. This is again part of the Kate Daniels series. I am reading in the release order. I can put the link in the description to the order that I'm reading them in. There are a bunch of other options that you can read. This is just the one that I happen to be choosing. This is Jim and Dali's story. Jim is a character that we've known from the first book. Dali was introduced a few books in. Jim is a jaguar. He's one of the cats. More importantly, he is the enforcer for the pack, the shifter community in Atlanta in this world. If you have not read any Kate Daniels, this is going to be confusing as fuck for you, so I do apologize, but kind of not really. Go listen to other things that where I talk about it and go read some Kate Daniels. It's good. So in the shifter pack, Jim is head of the cat clan as well as the enforcer for the whole pack. Dali is a white tiger. She is blind, legally blind. She's legally blind, pretty blind. And she has magic. She is also completely in love with Jim, just completely in love with him. And he has not given her the time of day. He berates her constantly because even though she's legally blind, she likes to drag race. Nothing could go wrong, of course, when you drag race legally blind. Jim gets in trouble. A bunch of shifters get in trouble. They get killed by this creature. They don't know they don't know what it is. They don't know what's happening, but they're dying. And so Dali is enlisted to help Jim figure out what magical creature is doing this. Dali is incredibly knowledgeable. She has her own magic as well as a wealth of information about magic from all over the world. So she's a great resource, and that's how we met her in earlier books as well. Dali discovers that Jim has actually been affected by this magical situation. The story of the magic in this is really heartbreaking, and I don't want to give it away because it's a nice twist, but it is heartbreaking. It's not for the faint of heart. It's sad. But it turns out there's this magical creature who's kind of spider-like and is infecting shifters and killing them for a reason, but she's infected Jim and could take him over and kill him. And Dali is going to do everything in her power to not have that happen, to save Jim. She loves him. We also get to meet her family and watch her mother kind of be matchmaker to her and Jim, which is really, really funny. Jim is such a badass that it's very endearing whenever you meet someone who's like, yeah, I don't care how badass you are. I'm going to try and set you up with my daughter. Duh. Jim is wounded and Dali saves him, and as he is not dying but being saved, she confesses her feelings for him. It's a beautiful moment. Oh, and Dali almost dies also in the saving of him, almost sacrifices herself to save him, as one does. It's a novella. It's very short. It's a very short and sweet story. And I do mean sweet because at the end of this tale, as Dali is recovering, Jim shows up with food. And in the shifter community, giving food and receiving food is a sign of courtship. And Dali is just floored. She's completely floored. Well, I don't understand. And I have to get my phone for the quote because it's one of my favorite quotes that I've read in a really long time. I'll go back to the other ones because it's so cute. These shifters have their animal inside of them, and Jim shows up, and this is Dali. This whole book is from Dali's perspective. The masculine fragrance filled my house, screaming "mate" at me so loudly that I held my breath for a second to get a grip. Like, she loves him so hard. It's so adorable. Okay, so now there are only 4 things I highlighted. The other ones don't make sense. Plot rememberings. When he comes back and he has the food and she's confused, he says this: "The problem with being an alpha is that you can never make the first move. Makes you feel like you're taking advantage of your position. You have to wait until the other person decides they want in." And that is so true. Anyone in power, you can never make the first move. It could be coercion. You don't know. And Jim has waited. Jim has been waiting for her to make the first move. And at the first opportunity, after she confesses her feelings, he's right there. He is right there courting her and expressing his interest back. And I appreciate that patience. I love the sentiment. I think it's important. And it's such a sweet moment. And it just reminds me why I love this series so much. The next book I read is Legendborn. Finally, another physical book that I own. I know, ridiculous. This is by Tracy. Deonn, 5 stars. Go read this book. Everybody just pause this video. Go get this book. Put it in your bookshop.org. Get it from your library. Take it off your shelf and start reading this book because it was incredible. 5 stars. And this is a zero spice YA novel. And I'm telling you, you need to read this book. You need to read this book. Okay, just, you need to read it. So I'm putting it down so I'm not like flailing everywhere. This story is about Bree. She is a junior in high school living in North Carolina, and she has gotten accepted and goes to a college prep program at a college campus. So she has left home and is living on a college campus, participating in this college prep program for her junior and senior year. Side note, her mother just died 3 months ago in a car accident, and the last thing that she and her mother discussed was actually them getting into a fight about Bree applying for and getting into this program and her mom not wanting her to do it. So there's a lot of emotions tied up in both Bree leaving, being here, just the normal grief you have when your mom dies. And then while on campus, she witnesses a supernatural incident, a demon, they call them demons, and discovers this secret society on campus who are the descendants of the Knights of the Round Table and are there to defeat evil and fight demons. And she's not supposed to be able to see them at all because she's a normal human. You're not supposed to be able to see demons if you're a normie, but convinces this guy named Nick. So she actually meets Nick because of the program she's in. Nick is part of this secret society and convinces Nick to bring her in as essentially a pledge. I think they call them pages, but a pledge to participate in this group, to be part of the fight against evil. Separate from that, Bree discovers that through her mother, she has magic, and what that means and what her magic is and how it affects her differently and relates to this secret society. She also has a budding romance with this white guy, Nick. She's existing in this predominantly white space in a predominantly white institution. She's experiencing blatant racism and misogyny. Tracy Deonn does not fucking pull punches. And along the way, she's going through these trials. She's going through this training to be a page in this secret society because she has a flashback to the night her mom died and realizes that the cop put magic on her. And so she thinks her mother's death has something to do with the secret society. So there's just so much emotion tied into this journey with the secret society, being on this campus in this predominantly white space and the history that entails, and being a Black woman in this space and just in the world. And I truly believe that this book should be taught in all high schools. It's why there's no spice. She thick. You can't say you're going easy on kids when they're reading this book. But also it's one of the best examples of what it's like to be a Black person in a predominantly white space and in a predominantly white institution that I've ever read. And I think that you could sneak this into a lot of school curriculums by saying it's an Arthur retelling, because it kind of is. And Arthur's like the whitest story of them all. So they're not going to read this book. They're not going to read it. So you might as well sneak it in there. It ends on a cliffhanger and a big reveal. There are 4 books in the series. They're originally supposed to be 3. She changed it to 4. 3 of them are out. Legendborn, Bloodmarked, and Oathbound are all out. The 4th one comes out. I don't know when. I'm so sorry. I don't know when that comes out. But this is incredible. Just, you need to read this book. So much of what I did was just like, I need to remember the world There's so much world building that was hard. That was hard to remember. And they're the great. Like, this is such a great line, and I remember feeling this at 16. Sometimes I wish I could shrink into someone more convenient. Yeah, I remember that at 16. You're like, my feelings, my expressions, everything's just so inconvenient for everyone else, and I like wish I didn't have to be so me. There are a lot of queer characters as well as non-binary and people who use they them pronouns, so even though this expresses a lot of racism, we haven't really experienced homophobia or anti-LGBTQIA+. Oh my god, fucking Nick. He's such a sweetheart. That thing you just did. That thing you do, he says, his eyes filled with humor and a shadow of hurt. Tell yourself I'm just teasing. It's okay to be nervous, but please don't dismiss the idea that I like you, Bee. And then in the other page he goes, you're not a damsel to me, Bree. You're a warrior. You're strong and you're beautiful and you're brilliant and brave. He presses his forehead against mine, his eyes squeezed shut, and takes a slow, ragged breath. And I'd really like to kiss you. I love the affection, but also the can I kiss you line. I think it's important. Consent. Consent is important, friends. And it's sexy. That's sexy and sweet, and I love it. So, good job. Also showing that young people had asked for consent. And then all of this is just like, the plot. It's so... I love this book. I like almost want to erase it from my brain and get to read it for the first time again. Go read this book. The next book I read is an arc for Kiss Me Maybe by Gabriella Gamez. By the time you're seeing this video, it's probably out. It's the second book in the Libraries and Love series. The first one was The Next Best Fling, which I read last summer. This book is about Angela, the best friend from the first book. Angela, in The Next Best Fling, comes out as a lesbian and as asexual. So that journey has kind of already happened. We know that about her, but it's very new. In this book, she's figuring out what does it mean to be an asexual lesbian for her. There is a very big spectrum of asexuality, from ace to demi to gray. You can be sex repulsed or not sex repulsed. There's a huge span of experiences, and she needs to figure out what does ace mean for her. How does she feel now that she knows she's not allosexual? She gets into a little bit of trouble by posting a video that seems to have some thirst to it, or people find it thirsty. She gets in trouble with her library, and in these online discussions that she's having on TikTok, on social media sites, she's positing what does it mean. She's never had a first kiss. What does it mean to her? What is important? And she kind of jokes that she's going to date the internet. And that blows up. And this is where the plot loses me. Because she jokes about dating the internet, and she's like, I'm going to do a scavenger hunt, and if you find me at the end of the scavenger hunt, you get to be my first kiss. Which is fine, but it kind of implies that first kiss doesn't mean much to you. And it doesn't matter who your partner is, because you're going to leave it up to chance. You're not going to take a real active role. It also limits who can participate to people who are geographically close to you. So you're eliminating a lot of people within this community online that you're building. So on the one hand, we've got her trying to figure out this whole scavenger hunt thing. What is she going to do? What is meaning to her? How is it going to be fun? How is she going to like make the rules? Blah, 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 blah. And on the other hand, we have the actual real life crush in her life, who is Krystal. Krystal's a bartender at the bar that she and her best friend go to. She's had a crush on Krystal for a couple of years, and she and Krystal actually become friends in this book. They build a rapport. In the first book, Angela had a really drunken night and told Krystal she's beautiful and amazing and all sorts of other things, and she's kind of embarrassed about it. But it opens the door for her and Krystal to develop a friendship. As the friendship evolves, it turns into a little bit more. It turns into flirty. It turns into I like you. So she's got this in real life relationship blossoming, as well as this online persona that now expects a scavenger hunt for her first kiss. And how are we going to balance the two of these things? I'm not going to lie, I didn't love it. I didn't love the scavenger hunt aspect of it. I didn't love how the relationship between her and Krystal was evolving, but they kept not having a first kiss. So it's like they saved the first kiss for the scavenger hunt, but did a bunch of other stuff. Well, you're missing the point. The point of the scavenger hunt, the point of that was to give your first kiss because it has no meaning. But you're also exploring sexuality and where you are on that A spectrum with someone in real life, simply denying them your first kiss and calling everything square. I didn't love it. I felt like the book also took a little bit too long. It could have been condensed, or other things could have been expanded in a way that felt more authentic. I get that the internet and parasocial relationships are important, and they do play a really important role in people's coming out, especially if they come from a community where your sexuality is rigidly defined or you don't have queer humans around you to support you. But the difference in the dichotomy between what was happening in real life and what was happening online just felt really disingenuous to both people, the internet as well as Krystal. Even though Krystal was totally on board and fully participatory in the planning of the scavenger hunt, it just felt a little icky for me at times. We're set up for the next Librarians in Love. I don't remember who it's about. I really wanted to like this book more because I wanted to read about a Latina asexual lesbian, because there aren't very many stories of Latina asexual lesbians being told, and it's important. So maybe it just hit me wrong. Maybe the pacing felt odd. Maybe I just wanted certain things to happen in other ways. But I would love for you all to get this book. It's out on the 13th of May. You should go read it. Maybe you don't have to buy it. Maybe you don't want to invest the time, the money into it. Get it from your library. That's how I read The Next Best Fling, so I know that libraries have it. Go request it from your local library, read it, and let me know what you thought about it, about the pacing, about the length of the book, about the in real life versus what we put online kind of situation, because that's the part that felt icky. Here's this beautiful thing happening in real life, and online you're hiding everything because of X, Y, and Z. I didn't love that. But I love the story, I love the community, I love the family that we saw. There's a lot of found family in this. There's a lot of standing up for yourself against family members who maybe didn't treat you right in the past, which I think is important. Well, the overall book wasn't my favorite. I think that it has a lot of aspects that are important to have in romance, to share with the world, and I'd love to hear your opinions on them. The next book I read, I can't even tell you about. Doesn't even have a title, because I got to beta read a book. I am so grateful that this author, won't even tell you who, reached out to me about beta reading their new book. I read the first book in the series, and so it was really fun to get to read the second book and to talk to them about where this book is going. It's very different reading an ARC, an advanced reader copy. The book is pretty much done at that point. You might get some errors, you might get a few things, but you're getting ARCs in order to promote a book. When you're beta reading a book, you get to touch the book a little bit earlier in the process and potentially see changes that you suggest implemented into the book. I don't know if the author is going to take any of my suggestions. I wasn't sensitivity reading, I was just beta reading. I can't tell you, but it was just a really beautiful experience to get to touch a book in this stage of the process and to have a really in-depth conversation with the author about it afterwards. So if you ever get the chance to beta read, I highly recommend it. The last book I read this week was Hidden Roots by Cleo Evans. This was another ARC, but it came out in March, so it's definitely out by the time you have read this. It's in fact the third book in the Citrus Cove series, so all 3 books are out. Like the first 2 books, this is romantic suspensey, and it was set up in the first book. This was set up in the first book in their first Zoom call. Okay? Emma and Hunter. Hunter is the oldest Hayes brother. Emma is the best friend of the FMC Haley from the first book. She moved to Citrus Cove to support Haley and be there. It's really lovely. Emma and Hunter have this combative loathe to love situation, and I don't mind a loathe to love. And I thought we were setting up a genuine loathe to love, because in that first Zoom call, they started in the banter. Hold on, I'll get to that. It's a Cleo Evans book, so you can expect a lot of smut. You can expect a lot of kink. She puts pegging in her trigger warnings and goddamn delivers in the book. I don't have to wait. I don't have to wait for a bonus scene. It's in the book itself, so thank you. This romantic suspense is a different world, a different situation than the first 2 books. The first 2 books are very interconnected, and you do have to read these books in order. While they're technically standalones, This is the most standalone-y, but you should read the first two books because what's happened around them really affects Hunter and Emma's relationship and the relationships with the people around them. But this book has the least to do with the circumstances of the first two in terms of the suspense and the drama. Emma comes from a family that she is estranged from. There is a business and there is money. She was married to someone in the business and divorced that human. She's left that and has been on her own ever since. She is independent. She works for a company. She makes her own money and is very successful at it. And then one day, her ex-husband shows up at her house and says, hey, by the way, your dad died. Way to break the news to me. Also, you should sell me your shares in the company and we should get married again. And Hunter's there doing something unrelated to anything. And Emma goes, no, I have a boyfriend. This is my boyfriend. This is Hunter. And Hunter walks up and goes, actually, I'm her fiance. Double down on this, you jerk. And I was like, God fucking damn it. Because I have to tell him and he's going to tell someone and then it's going to be a big thing because our friends can't keep a secret for shit. So we're going to have to tell them that we're actually engaged and they're going to get mad at us and I can't believe you did this. And the reason is Hunter has never hated Emma. He's had a crush on her since the first time they met. Physically, and also before that. I'm like, nah, dude, and this is the part that annoyed me. You don't get to be sassy banter snark and have a crush on her and be like, I just didn't know how to deal with it. I had a crush on her, and so I was mean to her. I don't believe that. That's not my favorite, especially because you beat up Cam in the first book for being a bit of a bully to Haley. You don't get to be a bit of a bully to Emma. Not a bully, he didn't ruin her life, but you don't get to be an asshole to Emma because you like her since you beat up Cam for that. You just don't get to do it. So it wasn't my favorite of the three books. I think the middle book, Stolen Chances, is definitely my favorite of the three, but it did get them together, and once they got together, I really enjoyed them as a couple. I thought that they made sense. I thought that they were respectful. They worked well in the drama of this situation, in the romantic suspense. If you liked the first two books, you're definitely going to want to finish this book. But it was my least favorite of the trilogy, I just gotta say. And that is what I read in the week of March 3rd through March 6th. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe so you can follow along and hear these updates for everything that I've read, even though I'm a little behind. It's okay, y'all. And until next time, this is Jace, holding space for you.